In 2014, Fleetwood Mac put aside their differences and reunited, only for Lindsey Buckingham to quickly drop out. Some members said Buckingham was just being difficult, but Buckingham said the truth was much darker. Fleetwood Mac is still a household name thanks to their positively epic musical career, but they earned additional notoriety thanks to their intense interpersonal relationships and aggressive falling outs. After all these years, the details of their history are still astonishing. The band and the members that launched the band to fame were not entirely the members who started it. Indeed, their journey didn't start with a bang, but a gradual increase. Peter Green, Mick Fleetwood, and John McVie recorded several singles in the summer of 1967. They officially formed the first iteration of Fleetwood Mac that July. Green called the band Fleetwood Mac after his bandmates. Perhaps the name was a little wishful in those early days, as one member wasn't so enthusiastic to continue their new venture. McVie wasn't ready to join the band, afraid of the lack of security a new journey would bring. So, Green and Fleetwood set out by themselves. They still needed to gather a few more members to really make something happen. With Green as the guitarist and Fleetwood as the drummer, they recruited 2 more members, side guitarist Jeremy Spencer and bassist Bob Brunning. Brunning knew that his stay in the band would be short-lived, since Green was still vying to get McVie to join. When McVie finally did join, the band was well on its way to fame. The first album they recorded was self-titled in 1968, also known as Peter Green's Fleetwood Mac. Only one song featured Brunning, but McVie played bass for the rest of their debut. When their second album, Mr. Wonderful, came out later that year, they earned some awards for the artists they featured. Their real recognition was yet to come. Strife struck the band when Green grew annoyed with Spencer. Green felt he wasn't adding anything to the band, while recent addition, Danny Kirwan, an 18-year-old talent they snagged, was able to contribute his unique playing to the band's style. By the time their third album came out, Spencer was making a play for a solo career. Spencer's solo album featured everyone in the band except Green, and while they recorded both Spencer's solo album and Fleetwood Mac's third studio album, Green was getting into substances that altered his state of being. His many days spent tripping only caused more issues for the band. This would set the first dramatic exit from Fleetwood Mac into motion. It was after recording the Green Monology with the Two-Pronged Clown that things came crashing down. They found a lot of success with the album, both in the UK and across the pond in the US. The fame and fortune were rolling in, and Green had a controversial idea for what they could do with their newfound fame. Probably a little too high off his vices, Green made a pretty crazy suggestion. He wanted the band to donate all the profits from their album and recent tour to charity. But his mental state was in freefall, and his band members could see this. They refused his suggestion, and this decision shattered the relationship with Green. Green quit the band after their European tour concluded. His last show was on May 20th, 1970. Of course, the show went on, but not without even more challenges. This left Fleetwood Mac recording their next studio album without the extra member they'd come to rely on. Luckily, John McVie had recently married Christine Perfect, now McVie. It was fortunate that she agreed to contribute to their album as backup vocals and keyboard. Soon she cemented her position and her legacy, both of which would go beyond anyone's expectations. The band went on tour again in 1971, heading to the US to play for their overseas fans. They performed new songs from their previous albums, as well as a new compilation album, titled The Original Fleetwood Mac, which featured unreleased songs from 1967 to 1968. Things seemed to be going well, until Jeremy Spencer left one day on a quick errand, and didn't return. The band was frantic. They couldn't perform without such an important member of their group, so their only option was to go and look for him. The band searched for days, each day making them more and more uncertain that they would find him. What they found stunned them. Spencer joined the Children of God, a fringe religious cult that was later convicted in the UK for their actions against children. They needed to fill Spencer's role to complete the tour, so they called up an old friend. Peter Green returned temporarily to perform on the tour, bringing a friend along with him as supporting percussion. But even with the potential to return to the band, Green refused. His time with Fleetwood Mac was over, and the band needed to start a lengthy search to find a new guitarist. Little did they know, even more conflict was building for the existing members. Through recommendation, the band found Bob Welch and brought him to fill in their guitar-shaped void. He was a perfect replacement and helped them complete 2 more albums in 1 year. The momentum was building and the band was doing well, but their tours were taking a sour turn. Behind the scenes, one of the bandmates struggled with huge demons. Kirwan, who had been a major contributor to the band's songwriting and stylings until this point, was growing increasingly dependent on drinking. It was getting so dire that he was becoming distant from his bandmates. His behavior during one particular concert was the last straw. Kirwan destroyed his guitar and wouldn't take the stage with the rest of the band. After Fleetwood Mac played the set without him, he was incredibly critical of their playing. At that moment, they fired him from the band. Later, Mick Fleetwood would comment that the pressure on Kirwan was so high he'd had a mental breakdown. But Kirwan wouldn't be the last to crumble under duress. After several more dissolutions and recasting of the band, Fleetwood Mac was on the rocks. They didn't know if they were going to keep performing, or even if they would continue as a musical ensemble. Everything was coming to a head. The McVies' marriage had taken a serious turn for the worst, and another band member's marriage soon suffered the burns of betrayal. Not only were the McVies on the rocks, but Fleetwood's wife was cheating on him with temporary member Bob Weston. When he learned of their betrayals, he quickly ended his marriage and divorced her. As for Weston, Fleetwood fired him from the group, and they were left once again down a member. But the repercussions of this duplicity on Fleetwood would plague him forever and leave a permanent stain on the band. In 1974, they couldn't ignore their conflicts anymore. The band refused to play together and cancelled the US tour. But their manager, Clifford Davis, wasn't about to lose out on all that money, nor take the hit to his reputation. He made a rather desperate decision that could only have occurred before the widespread use of phones and the internet. He hired a fake lineup of Fleetwood Mac. In an attempt to maintain relationships with bookers and promoters, he gathered musicians from another band he was managing and called the band the New Fleetwood Mac. When the real band members opposed his use of their band name, Davis claimed he owned the name and could do what he wanted with it. With his new lineup finalized, he sent them to their first concert. The not really Fleetwood Mac was met with anger from the show's promoter, who knew it wasn't the real band. He confronted Davis, and their argument grew so intense that security intervened. But by then, the band had taken the stage and was already performing. Rumor was spreading that this was a fake Mac tour, and the band began to lose the audience's favor. They were branded in the press as imposters, and no one came to the performers' aid, even Fleetwood, who had supposedly given them his blessing. By the time they made it to their performance in Edmonton, Alberta, audience members were throwing things on stage in anger. After that, the whole endeavor dissolved, the tour ended early, and the false members disbanded. But luckily, a little light still shone at the end of the tunnel for the real Fleetwood Mac. After a few years of back and forth, the original members of the band were able to reclaim the name, and they made California their new base of operations. They even became the first band to manage themselves to avoid the risk of being screwed over again. But after so many years of struggle and an album that flopped, they needed to add new blood to their ranks and revive their creative force. While investigating a studio in Los Angeles, Fleetwood was shown a track on the album called Buckingham Nicks, recorded by power couple Lindsey Buckingham and girlfriend Stevie Nicks. Their talent floored Fleetwood, and he asked to meet them. After he met with Buckingham, Fleetwood offered him a place in the band, but Buckingham would only join under one condition. Buckingham wanted to join the band, but he wouldn't leave his lover behind. His musical partner and girlfriend, Stevie Nicks, came as a package deal. Fleetwood consented, especially since they had just lost Welch to a solo career. The pair officially joined the band in December 1974. It seemed like the band was turning a new leaf, but none of them knew what was in store for them. In 1974, they released the band's 10th album, but their first release with their new official lineup, Fleetwood Mac. It found immediate and immense success. It featured 2 songs written by Christine McVie and 2 written by Nicks. The band's reputation was flying high as they sold over 7 million copies of their album. Their personal lives, on the other hand, were falling apart. They were recording Rumours in 1977 when everything became dramatically worse for the band members. Substances were flowing readily during recording sessions, and none of the members were entirely sober at any point during the process. At one point, they even wanted to give their dealer a credit on the album. This only served to exacerbate the screaming matches between Nicks and Buckingham. Stevie Nicks and Lindsey Buckingham had been in an on-and-off relationship for around 8 years leading up to recording Rumours. By the time they were writing for it, they were constantly fighting, and their fury and conflict became apparent in many of the songs they wrote. Go Your Own Way was a song Buckingham wrote about their breakup, in which he wrote lyrics that made Nicks record insults targeted at her. His insults didn't go unanswered, however. Nicks wrote her own songs to take on Buckingham's in the studio. One of these was Dreams, which discusses the desire to end their horrible, unhealthy relationship. Even though Buckingham didn't pull any punches in his song, Nicks took a more civil approach in Dreams, and even acknowledged that they were both at fault for the failure of their marriage. At the same time, Nicks was finding love with someone else. 2 years after joining the band, Nicks fell in love with Fleetwood. At the time, he was still married to his soon-to-be ex-wife, and she was dating Don Henley of the Eagles. This didn't stop Nicks and Fleetwood from having an affair, though. It eventually turned into the two dating, during which time Fleetwood also had an affair with Nicks' best friend. All the while, Christine and John McVie were going through their own drama. Unlike their fellow bandmates, the McVies didn't talk during recording. They avoided each other as much as possible, unless they were discussing band-related issues. While they recorded, Christine fell in love with the band's lighting director. This new relationship inspired her to write You Make Loving Fun, dedicated to Second Chance Love. This song ran the risk of ruining any good relations between her and John, so she came up with a deceptive plan. When confronted about the subject of the song, Christine lied. The upbeat song could have caused quite the rift between members, and they were already struggling to get the album done through the haze of substances and squabbles. Instead, she stated that she wrote it about her dog. Even so, issues continued to pull the band apart, and for a long time, they didn't think they would finish the album. Somehow, they managed to finish the album. It took a whole year to produce and record, and they followed that with a 6-month tour. During this time, they endured a lot as a band and as friends. Indeed, they went into the next few months and years with that strenuous period of time hanging between them all. And there was still one thing they needed to wrap up. The McVies finalized their divorce after their 6-month tour. After months of knowing it was coming to an end, the chapter was finally closed for Christine and John. Fleetwood would later comment on the turmoil they endured while recording the album. He said it almost killed them. Despite all the turmoil the members experienced during the recording of the album Rumours earned the band a Grammy Award in 1977. That year, they also appeared on the cover of Rolling Stone magazine. Buckingham left Fleetwood Mac in 1987 after there was an argument with Nicks that escalated to a physical encounter. He felt he was being squandered by the band and wanted to find his creative side, right when the band had finally stabilized its member status too. But he wasn't the only surprise departure to occur in the subsequent years. Stevie Nicks left the band in 1991, alongside one of Buckingham's replacements, Rick Vito. While it seems she'd been thinking about it for a while, one run-in with the band's namesake pushed her over the edge. Fleetwood was planning to release a 4-CD box set called 25 Years The Chain, which detailed the band's history, but Nicks wanted to use one of her songs on her own compilation album, and Fleetwood had already set it aside as a rarity on his release. The disagreement eventually went public, further breaking down the already broken down band. It seemed it could be the very last time anyone saw the classic lineup together in any way. 6 years later, in 1997, something astonishing happened. The band officially reformed in March of that year, after a couple of years of quietly working together again in different capacities. Their first official reunion concert was held at the Warner Bros. Soundstage that May. Perhaps even more shockingly, Lindsey Buckingham shared a kind comment about being back in creative collaboration with the others. The band was always lingering on similar wavelengths, but this was solidified by Buckingham upon the reunion. He said the chemistry was very present for them as they performed together again. Not only that, but they released their concert as a live recorded album called The Dance, which sold over 5 million copies. But the band still had another more massive change in store for them. It seemed like Fleetwood Mac was back in business, setting up more albums and tours and getting ready to continue their legacy. Until Christine McVie quit. But as it turns out, she didn't merely quit the band, she quit the industry altogether. This time though, she didn't leave them empty-handed and even appeared as a guest on the album. But while things didn't totally fall apart, time proved that even despite their many comebacks, they couldn't stay at the top forever. They released that album, Say You Will, in 2003 and won the Grammy Hall of Fame award the same year. Another decade passed by before they released another album. In the meantime, the quartet continued touring without Christine McVie. They titled the tour Unleashed, and it became the 13th highest earning world tour in 2009. Then, something shocking happened on stage in 2013. Christine McVie returned to perform Don't Stop with the band at their London O2 shows. While the quartet was happy to have their final member return to their ranks, if temporary, Buckingham had some choice words. Nicks reported him saying, "She can't just come and go, especially since her appearance risked overshadowing how much effort the band had put into rehearsing the 2 months leading up to their performance." As you might guess, Nicks didn't share that opinion with her ex. Nicks felt glad to have Christine back, but a mere month later, the fate of the band was once again in flux. Doctors diagnosed John McVie with cancer, forcing the band to stop touring while he received treatment. After some time, it seemed like he was going to make it into remission. When his illness showed signs of improvement, Christine revealed she might return to the band when he totally recovered. But Fleetwood Mac soon found themselves embroiled in conflict once again. In January 2014, Christine officially rejoined the band and they went on another tour around the US. After the American performances were incredibly well received, they added even more dates, including in other countries. When the tour concluded, it seemed as if a new era of Fleetwood Mac was emerging. Unfortunately, it wasn't long before Buckingham and Nicks were added again. Allegedly, Nicks felt hesitant to commit to recording another full album with the band. After decades of proof that all they would do was bicker until the cows came home, Nicks said, "Do you want to take a chance on spending a year recording an album with a bunch of arguing people, and then not wanting to go on tour because you just spent a year arguing?" It wasn't long before the conflict reached a boiling point for the band. In April 2018, Buckingham left the band for the second time. There were two versions of the events that led to it. In one version of the story, the band fired Buckingham for being difficult about a tour that had been in the works for over a year. His departure came after they reached an impasse in their negotiations around which lesser-known songs they would include in the set. But Buckingham reported a very different set of events leading up to his firing. Buckingham alleges that, in actuality, issues with his now longtime ex-girlfriend Nicks led to his final departure from the band. Reportedly, Rhiannon played as they took the stage to accept an award from the Music Cares event, and Buckingham didn't approve of the choice of song. Not only that, but Nicks found it insulting that he smirked while she thanked those important to her. It was enough for Nicks to put her foot down. Either she left the band, or Buckingham did. In October 2014, Buckingham launched a suit against the band for several different grievances, including serious contract breaches. They didn't reach a settlement in court, but they managed to settle the matter privately with undisclosed terms. In the meantime, the band replaced Buckingham and continued their performances, until something happened that shattered the band forever. Christine McVie, a vital part of the band, lost her life to a stroke on November 30th, 2022. She'd been fighting metastatic cancer and was in hospital at the time of her departure. This was a major tragedy for the band, and to Stevie Nicks, Christine was her best friend in the whole world. Could Fleetwood Mac recover after such a decimating loss? This changed everything for the band, and in 2023, Fleetwood called the band done, regardless of the surviving members. Nicks said that same year that there wasn't a reason for them to keep going, something she stood by ever since. Regardless of Fleetwood's teasing of a potential desire to get the remaining members back together, the band hasn't performed or released new music since, leaving us with nothing but the mind-blowing music and memories.
For exclusive perks like early access to new videos, priority replies to your comments, and to have your say on future content, consider becoming a Factinate member. On top of that, your support helps keep the channel going. Click the link in the description for more details.
Fleetwood Mac had a very classic reputation for popular bands and musicians in the 70s. Even their grievances with one another persisted into the 2000s. Luckily, they have over 17 albums to indulge in as you remember the immense impact this band has had on the music world. If you enjoyed this Factinate video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more incredible stories. Want to say in who we cover next? Join our membership program through the link in the description for exclusive perks. Your support means everything to us. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.